And welcome to our first ESG TV webcast during these unprecedented times. My name is Raj Arya, and this is the first of a series of webcasts where we're talking all things sustainable and, of course, regenerative. And as we lead up to the Entrepreneurship and Sustainability Conference later this year. Now, to get the ball rolling today, we have a very special guest all the way from Tokyo, Japan, and he is Mr. Doug STRABLE, founder of In Asia KK. Doug, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I enjoy to talk to you today.
Fantastic. Now, the topic for today is, of course, teachers with technology. But before we delve into that topic at hand, I'm sure our audience would like to know a bit more about your journey involving education, learning, and naturally technology. So, can you just share with us a thing or two?
Yes, I've been involved in first in the broadcast industry because I thought that it's a good way to educate the population and distance education in Canada at that time. I'm from Canada, and we did a lot of distance education through broadcast. And again, as the internet came about, you know, how television moved to the internet, and I was looking for ways of, you know, communicating better with my customers, actually, is what I was doing. But I also got involved with the school system here in Japan. We have a lot of people who don't want to go to school. We have what is called school refusers because they don't like the very structured style of education. So I was looking for a new way of doing that. And I found online education an avenue for that. And I became a student myself on online. And once I studied online, I was sold on how easy and how, you know, how wonderful it is really to get everybody in the class to talk.
Fantastic. Before we delve into today's topic of teachers with technology, Dave, could you just share with us a bit more about your journey in the education field?
Yes, certainly. My journey in the education field came from getting interested in being able to study from Japan at a university in Canada. So I found an online education program, Masters of Education and Technology. So I thought that really resonated with me, and I took the 2-year program. First, we spent 2 years in residency at the university in Canada. Then we did it all online as a group. So, and through that, I met, you know, I wanted to share this information here in Japan to a lot of people. So there's a very good textbook that we use, which is called, it's actually called Teaching in the Digital Age by Tony Bates. And I've been working on that Japanese translation with a number of professors here throughout Japan so that we can encourage more of, you know, the skills needed to change from education to, face-to-face education to online education, which is a needed skill here in Japan.
Now, as we all know, education is such a broad topic, and the first question may seem like a simple one, yet it's so complex. So what is learning? How do you define learning?
Yes, I agree with you. That's a very big question, but, you know, for learning, I try to take it a broad view from that. And, you know, learning is about experience and, you know, change over time. So, you know, when we start some project or learning, we want to change or we have some goal personally that we want to do. So, you know, I think that it's very important that over the time we need to change. And how you do that is, you know, not necessarily listening to, you know, the old way of listening in a classroom and getting the information, because now we can get it on, you know, I can get on all the information that I need. So what we need to do is, get more involved in what we call active learning, or doing things, right? And problem solving, and, solving these problems with the world has. And actually, in the result is to, make the world a better place. So, the learning is to make the world a better place for all of us.
Right, fair enough. So as we all know, there's always two sides to the coin. You have the hardware and the software. So the hardware could come in the form of like our smartphones, technology, and so forth. And obviously the software is the human touch itself. So given that human element, what conditions do we need to work on in terms of bringing that to the fore?
What I do in my business, and what I've seen over the years is, and the best way, or the best leadership is, the leaders are participatory. They know that they don't necessarily know everything, and they cannot do everything, but they're the team that has to provide the not incentive, but the encouragement to the team to do things better. So right now we have a lot of leaders around the world addressing different problems with the health of the country. So we have seen in my country, my home is British Columbia, we have a leader that comes in there very calm and talks and gives the facts. And then, she gives us some advice on what we should do, and then lets us go out and make sure that, we stay at home and we do these things that she recommends. So she brings some confidence to our part there. She's become a YouTube star, and she wanted to search for her.
Yeah, that's true. Well, as you can see, education and learning has evolved tremendously over the last 4 or 5 decades, and naturally, technology has played a big part in that. Now, with regards to learning, what do you like about learning and teaching online? That means rather than the face-to-face, and now we have moved into the online sphere.
Yes. What I like about, learning and teaching online is that everyone gets to say something in the class. Maybe in a face-to-face class, you will only have a certain group talking and sharing information. But the more shy people, they may not have a voice. But with online and with the forums, we all can come in onto the online, and we share our opinion on that. And I found when I'm learning, even the students are saying, "Oh, Raj, you haven't answered. We're waiting for your answer." They're the ones who are encouraging, because they want to hear everyone's opinion very much, and that's really what we get a project, and we just go online and talk about it and figure out ideas, and then somebody goes and searches it. So everyone gets a voice. That's really what I like about online education.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's obviously a vast difference standing in front of a blackboard or whiteboard and having students from around the world connected thanks to technology, and,
Yes.
and able to have that voice at the end of the day. Now, Doug, earlier I mentioned about how the evolution of education. Now, previously we can see that there are different styles of learning. We know that traditionally the Asian way, it's all about memorizing, it's about knowing the facts and all that. So now we have new ways of learning, like active, adaptive, immersive learning, experiential learning. That's another one as well. So could you just tell us a bit about the various difference in terms of classroom work compared to online, and the shift between these different modes of learning as it is today?
Okay, yes, certainly. Well, what I see, teachers are becoming more like they're designing the experience, right? They're designing a type of activity. So they're more designers of education or designers of activity. So they want the students to do work. I'll give you an example about that. I recently talked to a fellow who's doing trades. He's doing education for electrical engineering. So their typical way is listening to the class and talking on about that, but in a typical classroom and memorizing what they learned in a textbook. But rather than that, he's got the class in what he calls pods. He's got them all in groups of 4. So each group has to work together. So they're given an assignment, and rather than read the textbook, they're asked to create the textbook or to create the instruction manual for that specific activity or specific electrical problem. So that's what I'm saying. You know, people need to do things and solve problems in the world today and in the future, and those are the very kind of skills that you need to practice. You can't learn that kind of thing by just memorizing things. You know, you have to.
Well said.
You have to go out and do them. You know, when the chef is making chocolate, you know, you can make the recipe, but everybody's going to make it differently, and some prefer a different way. You know, so that is what I see the role of a teacher. And believe it or not, you mentioned online. You know, that was the classroom that the fellow was doing it, and now they're transferring that idea into online. We can use the technology to have group work. In my online class as well, we have students based in Doha, in Europe, in our 4 group. You know, wasn't in the classroom, but it was in a group of 4 people around the world, in Europe, in Doha, in the Qatar, in the Middle East, in Asia here. So we had to work on different time zones. So we could work on a document that we all shared, and we communicated by chat applications in type of things. And then we presented it to the class, like as we are doing in this video here as well. So with an LMS or a control center that we use, online can be just as good as the classroom, really.
Fantastic. And you mentioned LMS. We'll be coming to that very, very shortly later during this interview. Now, coming back to that point, so it's all about hands-on, not just purely theoretical, but having practical application. So that would be something you would define as active learning. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, that's what I call active learning or immersive learning or project-based learning. Those are it goes from the elementary schools. They have, in Japan here, they're starting to do more active learning is what they call it here. But again, it's doing things as groups and collaborating. You know, the key word is, I think in my business too, and as we are doing today, we have to get together to solve a problem and talk about it. And those skills, we can't do anything by ourselves anymore. The 3 of us or the 4 of us or 5 of us getting together and sharing ideas is much more efficient than doing it myself, making mistakes and trying again.
Well said, Doug. Now, we know another aspect of technology that has helped a lot in terms of active learning is taking it to a whole new level, which is using virtual reality and augmented reality as well. So that's really cutting edge moving forward, isn't it?
Yes, those are definitely new tools, and as we get, data is very important to understand things, and as we get the more processing speeds and doing this, we can use this technology now for, in real time. Again, that was the example I gave it earlier, that the virtual reality you could use as a scaffolding, for learning safety procedures. I actually tried it. Learning a safety procedure, you have to go 1, 2, 3 on the safety chain, and if you miss the combination, you fall off and have to do it again. You know, you learn those steps by doing it, and much the persons that were involved in it, they said that it's far more. You remember it, you know, the safety when you're up there on a 20-story building, you know, and that type of thing.
Yeah, that's true. Now, moving on to our next question. What other items does learning with technology provide? Because I believe there's a whole host of them, isn't there?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I have a list here, actually. There, you know, it allows people who maybe, you know, the most wonderful things about it is it allows people wherever they are to learn. So we have people who are, you know, maybe cannot hear as well, cannot follow in the school as well. Well, they can listen to videos and they can talk on the you know, in online. They can read and they can use the subtitles on the videos. You know, they can learn at their speed. We also have, you know, in my class we had another girl. She finished the whole term, 2-year term in 1 year, right? So it allows more, you know, people to learn at their own speed rather than just follow along with the class at that part. And I think that is really what learning is. You know, whether you learn and you know more than I on something and I need a little more time to learn, and you know, we can do it by ourselves, we can do it offline, we can do more time, we can spend it time. And also I can talk to other students, you know, I can ask my friends and I have time to do that, where you don't have that. So, you know, all these tools, the virtual reality, the data processing, all help understand and allow us to have more, you know, customized learning experiences for people. You know, people learn at different speeds, and I think that's what I really like about online. We can learn. I mean, for me, I had to take a little longer as an older person to learn that than the younger people did, and I like to do it on my own pace. But I learned really well online, and I can remember what I see. I learned more. I can remember it more. Right?
Yep. Well said, well said. I guess all of us learns and picks up new things at different pace depending on our age and various factors as well. Now, I like what you mentioned earlier about learning experiences. Now, during our conversations earlier today, you mentioned about teachers becoming designers of learning experiences. Now, that's a very profound statement. Could you elaborate a bit more about that?
Okay, teachers are, well, like I said, you know, you want the students to create the learning experience for themselves, but so you have to design that like a leadership challenge. Think of it as a challenge. So you give the people a challenge, like a game. You know, you have to solve the puzzle. You have to solve the Monopoly puzzle. You have to solve the puzzle, and the teacher has to create that to fit the curriculum, what they expect the students to learn, and their assessments, and what they expect to see. So the students are doing their learning, but the instructor is stepping back and as a mentor, helping them, guide them away. So, you know, we're not going to learn. The teachers are not disappearing. They're creating a community of people doing things.
Right. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense there. The teacher creates the parameters or the surroundings, and then basically the students are there to go crazy in terms of what their creativity can bring forward at the end of the day. Makes sense. And now,
yeah, I want to talk a little bit more. You just reminded me too that the environment, you know, the teaching environment, that is what is very important, and this getting together the groups. So some of the students, they can sit on the floor, they can go, they want to sit on those chairs and things like that. Wherever they're comfortable to learn is a very important part. So the whole atmosphere, that's what I'm saying. They're designing the environment, or they're designing the classroom to be friendlier and more relaxed for the students.
Right. Now, as we know, with the advancements of technology in education today, there are all kinds of buzzwords and system around. And I think earlier you mentioned about LMS, which stands for Learning Management System. Now, could you elaborate a bit more what LMS is all about?
Well, the learning, right now we have a lot of people who there's two ways of doing their teaching, like here, on a Zoom. They're using a lot of Zoom products, which we call teaching remotely. So the teacher is talking directly to the students or a group of students in a video or webinar. But that's the first step. But then, from the classroom, but then you need to pull it all together, and that's what an LMS is. It pulls all of the different. It's our classroom in a sense, right? So, well, not in a sense. It's our classroom. So we communicate in there. We share ideas, and there's a lot of tools that that we can use, like quizzes. We can put in files that we want to look at, resources. It's our library in there. It has, there's a number of different LMSs, all have their specific features for corporate, for higher education, integrated into WordPress and these kinds of activities. So it's really the heart in the classroom and where everybody interacts.
Right. Now, I'm going to ask you something which is totally on the flip side of things. Now, we have seen so many good things that technology has done. Now, on the other side of the coin, now there's been talk or schools of thought which are saying that perhaps bots or artificial intelligence could replace teachers. We have seen now students going on YouTube, learning to play a guitar, picking up a language, which on certain levels makes a conventional or a traditional teacher redundant. Now, what are your thoughts moving forward in terms of all these developments? Teachers also have to evolve, obviously, right?
Well, teachers are never going to be replaced by bots, but the bots can help, especially remedial learning, things that are going to be repeated a lot of times that they need to do a specific skill, so they can help enhance some of the learning practices, so that the teacher can spend more time on designing the parts, right? So that part, and I think that especially when you need to have a lot of repeating things, people maybe are doing an English conversation, you have to do certain things and you learn the structures and you have to practice pronunciation. But in the end, you have to talk to the live person to really be evaluated. So I think it's an assistance, but it's not going to replace the teachers. And that's a big theme that's come across on the online education too, that actually we need more teachers that are trained in how to create a community in an online education. In the classroom, you can see the people, you can experience the feedback. The students aren't getting the atmosphere, but when you're even the boss, right, it doesn't know that the teacher, that they're finished or they're not understanding. So how do you do that online is a skill that's what you need to do as an instructor, is learn how to create the communication, how to communicate with your group when they're not there, and what typically, this is actually what makes it successful or not. Many of the communication in the group and how the instructor designs that part of it. And that is what we find that the difficulty switching from face-to-face to online education is really the key there.
Yeah, well said. Obviously, the human touch is always essential, especially in the field of education. Well, Doug, we are almost out of time right now. Just a quick one, a parting shot from you. What would you like to see happen in the field of education involving technology moving forward? Perhaps in the next 3 to 5 years, perhaps.
3 to 5 years. Well, the main problem right now is or the stumbling block to. I like to see education online. What do we call a blended thing? I'd like to see it work in the classroom, and in the classroom, people working in the LMS in the classroom. So I have we come to class and we see people, but then we go off and work on our projects. And, that can extend around the world. Now, we need the education, the internet, in parts of Africa and other areas where the internet is not, is very expensive. We can put we've seen people do LAN, their own network together where they collaborate. They don't go through the network. They make their own in-house network. Or they don't have to communicate with the world because they're learning different techniques and all of the information that the instructor we can put on the server that they need. So so that's the idea, and the United Nations, the sustainability, the goals are all necessary to move that along there. So what I see is an opportunity to communicate better around the world and share ideas. That's really what I'm excited about this technology, and that's why I continue to try to encourage others to try it. That's the thing. You can read all the books about it, but you have to get into the online, get an LMS, see what that is, and try it out. There's lots of them around.
That's right. Moving from theory to action. Doug, thank you so much for your time today. It has been a pleasure speaking to you in terms of teaching and technology at hand. We appreciate your time on behalf of ESG TV, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the near future. Doug, thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you for having me here. I enjoyed the talk. Thanks.
Fantastic. With that, concludes our first webcast here today for ESG TV as we lead up to the Entrepreneurship and Sustainability Conference, which will be taking place later this year. With that, we hope you continue to join us for our future webcasts with other known speakers and leaders in the fields of sustainability and regeneration. Take care.